Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Streamed live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis. I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I'm joined this morning by my good friend and brother who's right next to me.
Right, Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Tommy. What's up, man?
Hey,
What's up?
The last show of the year, 2023. It's great to be here again.
And we are on the big screen this week, too.
Yes,
we started looking like this and said, no, that's not a good look. So we are glad to be seeing you all in living color, and we're excited about being here for the last show of 2023. Tommy, how was your week, man?
My week was restful, Eric. Very, very restful. It's been several years. I would like to say almost a decade, Eric, since I took off of work.
Right.
Literally unplugged. Put my out of office message on my emails, did not check my emails for a week at the end of the year. It's been a few years doing that. And it's been a blessing. I have felt re-energized, reconnected. I'm rested.
Right.
And at greater peace. And so I'm going to put that in practice at the end of each year now, as time is getting shorter, if you will, to take some time out at the end of the year, reconnect, get refocused, and get refreshed.
Yeah, Tommy, I'm doing the same thing. And, my son is in town, Eric from California. He's like, hey, Daddy's sleeping in. What is going on? Mom, he's sleeping in, Is
everything okay?
Yeah. And I just decided that it is a time for rest and recovery. But today I got up really early, but I felt fully rested. So I got in here about 6:30. And felt good about that because I've been just laying in the bed, recovering, and from all of the stresses and different things that we always that we go through. But also I was here a couple of days this last week, Tommy, by myself. Staff's on vacation, and I was thinking, I am so glad to be doing this work, and I still love what we do, Tommy. And I love sometimes being in the office by myself, man, able to work at my own pace. So.
Yeah,
had a great week.
And I like that too, Eric. I think oftentimes people assume that although we may be extroverted or introverted, whatever case may be, but when we are training in front of an audience of 3 or 4
right.
or 400 or 500, that's what we prefer all the time.
Woo.
That is not the truth, right? That energy lands on us. And week in, week out, month in, month out, it starts to pile up.
It does,
right?
Tommy.
And not only from the large groups, Eric, but when we are working with individuals in our coaching, that energy and the stuff that they're going through that we're trying to assist them with going through, we take it on as well. And so every now and again, we have to, again, unplug and take some time off. Reflect on the year that now for me, Eric, the years are like Happy New Year's, Merry Christmas.
Right.
It's so short now.
Right.
Because we're at the end of 2023 already.
It'll be Christmas again in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
don't worry, if you didn't get nothing last week, it's coming. 2 weeks. All the time. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, next Christmas. But Tommy, I'll tell you what, man. This year and all of the things that have been happening around our country and around the world is a big boulder of weight that the entire nation is under, the entire world is under. And I'm going to promise you all, you have got to make sure that you recognize those stressors and you really make time for yourself. And part of what we're going to talk about today is 2024 New Year's resolutions. I heard somebody talk about some hosts were talking about transformation instead of resolutions. But Tommy, as we think about, before we go into our, sort of top 10 things for people to think about, what is the importance of thinking about New Year's resolutions or transformations? Is there any value in that process?
I think there is the value, Eric, primarily because of two reasons. One, when we think of resolutions, we're reflecting immediately on the year that just passed. Maybe there's some mistakes, missed opportunities, opportunities that we did not take advantage of. Maybe, Eric, there are some regrets. We may reflect on that for a nanosecond, a small moment.
That's good.
And then at the same time saying, if I could do anything differently, which I can going into the next year, what will I do? What will I commit to? What am I dedicated to? And that resolution is a thought that is articulated out of our mouth, or we write it down to post it somewhere. The challenging part is staying the course, being disciplined. But first, having the idea that, hey, here's something I want to commit myself to, or get better, or improve, or do. Right. It may be something new. I think that's a good approach.
Tommy, I'll tell you what, I said it, but I didn't say it like I'm going to say it now. But man, I was in the office this week and I said, I love what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really just in here thrilled. So first of all, I'm going to say to those of you in our community, if you're not thrilled at what you're doing, then you have to consider doing something else. Don't allow yourself to be just locked in to the drudgery, if you will, of getting up every day, going to something that you don't enjoy. Because I'll tell you what, I'm excited. I mean, I'm sitting here with Tom. We start talking about New Year's resolutions, and that's so real for us because we cannot just think about it. We can implement it. We can literally make it happen. And as I think about the work that we do, we're creatives. We are innovators, and we are challenged sometimes with limited resources and people and all the things that do all the things that we want to accomplish. But I incorporate so many different things in what I do. It's not just DEI consulting and training. I also love music. I was in this morning, spent a couple hours. I can just get lost in music and creating songs that I believe that may make a difference in the world. But I love being an entrepreneur because we get a chance to think things into existence and to sharpen our thinking, don't we, Tom?
Yeah, we do. I want to give a shout out to Eric for his gift and talent of music. I am not as musically inclined at all. And I'm always at awe, not only at the professional songwriters, singers, musicians, but folks that are in close proximity like you, Eric, because those famous, quote unquote, famous artists, they are people too. And I'm always honored to say, I know someone that is just as musically inclined, that's able to articulate their thoughts, feelings, and transform other people through the gift of music. I think it's an incredible talent. And so that's one thing that I appreciate with you. I'm certain that you have tens, if not thousands of songs. Some of them may be brief, a couple of minutes. Some of them may be some vault type of music. In other words, there's a lot of artists that have songs in the vault. And so I want to give you a shout out, Eric. And then also, my wife and I, Eric, last night had an opportunity to have a deep conversation in the middle of watching a football game. Unfortunately, we were watching the Ohio State Buckeyes play.
Oh, disaster. Oh, my God, it was a disaster.
We were watching the football game, and a conversation broke out between the two of us.
That's so not interesting.
That's how exciting the game was. Anyway, let's talk about it. And so my wife, Penny, she had shared with me, reiterated with me how valuable she thought you are to me. Right? She says, Tommy, as you look at going into the next year with your business, you have to be more creative. You have to grow. You have to partner. And she says, I remember you saying several years ago, no, I don't need a partner. And I did say that. She was asking me to partner. And I said, no, I don't need a partner. But what I do know now is, as you say, and as she is outside of us recognizing, right? She says, got to scale up, right? We have to do something different to get a bigger and better result. We do. And where I am right now, Eric, is like trying to find out what that person or people are outside of us. So I just wanted to shout you out.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And Penny is right on. And the thing is, we don't fear each other. And so in our whole industry, unfortunately, I don't want to just say it's unhealthy, but people don't really make time to really work together. And I would say part of the reason is there's not oftentimes enough to eat. I mean, there's problems everywhere. There really are problems everywhere. The whole world's on fire. And we don't see organizations as being that intimately or aggressively interested in this work. And so you end up keeping your head down in the sand trying to feed yourself, when the reality is that you can never get to where you're going with the little spade that you have in your hand.
Wow.
You digging in earth, you getting out teaspoons full of stuff. My man, I can't get nowhere. Well,
look at it. And everything, and the earth is still collapsing. And you're trying to,
you're trying to get a teaspoon. So it's not gonna happen that way. We are going to accomplish this year. Bigger ideas are going to come into both of our brains. We love each other. We love and respect the work that we do. And I believe that 2024 is that year, Tommy, for greater things to happen for us. And what I would say to the community is know that all this calamity that's happening in the world around you, don't let that take so much of your attention. You've got to really take a look at what are the things that I need to be accomplishing and doing that I'm not doing right now. Who are the people that I need to connect with? Not just to use them, but to really identify how we can be helpful to them and how they can be helpful to us. I think 2024 is going to provide that for us, because I think that creativity is going to unlock new formulas. What I would say is that we are living in one of the greatest times in the history of Earth, where all of us have so much access to technology that really the average user can use it right in the palm of our hands. And so I believe that a lot of that is going to be utilized by us to create greater resources and ultimately greater impact. We're most interested in the impact, but the resources are important for marginalized communities to really take advantage of.
You know, you said so much, Eric, and I know we're going to get into our list. But as this past week as well, there were a number of shows, morning shows, things like that were reflecting on the year. The year of 2023. And there was a lot of chaos, calamity on just the images of our world. From wars, we are in a world of wars, right? And then we can move more domestically to North America or to even our own towns and cities and see the conflict. Right. Every now and again, there's a spark of positive messaging, positive news. Right. But I believe that we are becoming, we as consumers of the news that is more or less forced upon us or provided to us. Right. We are becoming more and more accepting of negativity. Right. Right. And so what our year looks like this. You know, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did this and this blew up or whatever. Right. And we are living, those who are blessed to be with us today, are living to tell the story of yesteryear. Right. So as we move into next year, what stories are we going to tell and share? Because last year may have been just a woe is me year. Right. Right. And then folks piled on to the negativity. Let's transition to more positivity.
I like that, Tommy. So my brother George was in town. So he came over our house for Christmas dinner. And we had a wonderful dinner. Judy did an amazing job. I got up early and cut the sweet potatoes. I say, I know that's a thankless job. Nobody really ever recognizes the chopper of the potatoes. Don't get any points. No celebration. Nobody says anything. The sweet potatoes, all of the mixture and the taste of them goes to the. But the guy that picked up the potatoes early in the morning didn't get any credit at all, but that's okay. I'm not complaining.
Hey, who chopped the potatoes? Oh my God. That's the finest.
But guess what? Somebody gave me a compliment. They said, that's really the whole thing. I said, oh, man, I'm fishing for compliments. Now it's the whole thing. They said, no. My brother said, it's the consistency of the slice sizes of the. I never thought about it.
Yes, sir.
But the artist in me is always trying to measure them the same. So I'm trying to make them all. I never know. Nobody ever told me that. But when he said that, I said, you're right. Yeah. If they're too thick or too thin, then they cook at different consistencies. Yes, so I got a little bit of celebration there. But we had a beautiful meal. I also, Tommy, I got a chance to introduce my goldware.
Oh yeah.
I've never been able to pick anything out in the whole house. That's the men, we don't get to pick much. So my wife is the queen of everything. But I was at the store, TJ Maxx, in a rebellious moment. I saw some goldware and I said, I'm going to buy this for Christmas for the meal. I'm an adult. Yeah. And it's on discount. So it didn't cost much. And I bring on the goldware. And they actually used it. Yeah. And I felt a little bit of dopamine seeing all the goldware out, in the house. But in the midst of all those wonderful things, we had a little argument, disagreement with one of my children, his mom. And then I got in, Daddy don't get in. Yeah. And then everything calmed down beautifully. But George was there to analyze and give some observations about our family. He said, nope. He said, this is nothing like how we grew up. He said, your family is so loving and so healthy. He said, we as children could have never said rape. We would never even thought about it. It wasn't even in our mind that it was an option to speak up. Wow. And he said, the way that you all surround each other and the confidence that you have, that love is deep. He said, it's just a beautiful thing to observe. And it was so helpful, Tommy, because sometimes you and I were into families and we don't really have any kind of real comparison to anything else. But here's my brother comparing my family versus how we grew up.
Do you think with that observation, Eric, and your family, from your perspective, or maybe even Judy's perspective, was that intentional, whereby the way you grew up in your family with your brother, et cetera, that there were some things that, and these are, your children are adults, right? They're adult men and women. Was that intentional? Was it part of you and what you wanted in a family? Why is the reality that your brother observed true?
Right. And he would not understand this or appreciate it. But the fact of the matter is, Judy and I have so much in common, and we're both Christians. We both love God. And I'm going to say to you, there's a lot of ways to succeed in the family. So I'm not saying you got to be a Christian, to have a great family. But because of our individual relationships with God and being able to hold on to that, we've invested that and all of those principles and values back into our family. And as I look around my family, nobody hardly stayed married. And Judy's family, nobody really stayed married. Her parents did. And so we are actually, it's funny that, I met Judy on a blind date, but I really was seeking God to help me find the right spouse. And 34 years later, I can say that Judy and I were made for each other. We have so much in common. We like to laugh. We both tell stories and jokes all the time. We both love DEI. We both love our children deeply. And so it's a real partnership. And I know Christian families don't succeed any better than any other families. If you look at the data, they're probably worse off, right? But we were fortunate that we had the right mixture of values, Tommy.
Yeah.
And we've learned how to make compromises too. So there's some areas I don't even touch. And it's funny that the kids, now that they're grown, they just mess with those areas.
Yeah.
Like, Daddy, I can say anything to mommy. I said, oh,
Right.
before y'all were here, I wasn't to touch that area at all. But here y'all are dancing all over it.
Yeah.
And she's laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been sweet. My mother was a preacher. My father had gone to church for a while and then kind of threw in the towel. I think he was so discouraged by the sexism that my mother was experiencing that he just set that aside. And I think that some of the challenges that he had in particular, but even my mother, they stayed together, but it created some unhealthiness at times in the family. I didn't consciously experience it. In many ways, I think I was a favorite son in my household. My mother loved my brother Duke, my older brother. He was her favorite because he was her firstborn. Yeah. And my father would come home and say, let Eric in the crib all day, And so, but me and my father was really tight. But after his death, I recognized some of the dysfunctions in him. So
yeah. And thank you for taking that question. Over dinner one time this past week, my wife Penny and son Bryce was just enjoying our dinner, and we typically have some conversation. Well, not typically, we always have some conversation. And Bryce had shared that the high school that he attends, which is in Southwest Ohio, is in Cincinnati. It's a public school, but it's very, very well known. It operates as if it's a private school. And it's
powerhouse.
It's a powerhouse. And he was sharing that he might have done better going to a different school. And when he shared that, it was a real truth that he shared. Right. And we unpacked it a little bit.
Okay.
And he said that there were certain unrealistic expectations as he was going into each year, beginning in 7th grade. The school goes from 7th to 12th grade. That for all the students, they had these expectations, and many of the expectations were from parents,
right,
or alumni,
right,
or even just the brand reputation of the school.
Right. Absolutely.
So you have to get into AP classes and college prep classes, et cetera, et cetera. And he said there were some classes that he took at the AP level that he really did not want to take. And that his classmates were saying, why are we doing this? It's an AP class that's basically a college course that's taught in high school, but everyone doesn't want to go to college.
Right.
And so his truth really landed on me saying, wow, I mean, what is it about education that I value so much that I wanted him to go into this particular school to value education, to prepare him for the next level, whereby he could have very well gone to another school as academically strong and had a 4.0 GPA, full ride scholarships, because that's where you end up talking about, versus a 3.2 GPA. Which
is a great GPA.
GPA, but it's like, what was the trade-off?
Right.
And I'm like, you're right. And as I'm listening to your story about your family, and I am, now moving my teenage son into young adulthood, I'm listening and I'm learning of, when can I and should I, push forward?
Wow.
And when should I pull back?
These are great observations and life lessons and major conversations that you cannot find a textbook to give you the answer on these. It doesn't exist. Some of this is brand new learning. And Tommy, what I would say, a couple things come to mind as you were talking about that. Number one, I watched this show last night, Holdovers, this movie. And I don't remember the actors in it, but it was really a beautiful movie. But it was a boarding school where all these rich parents had put their kids in this boarding school. And there was this kid there and he was getting in trouble all the time. And there was this professor that everybody hated. He was a nerd. He read too much. He went to high school there, went to Harvard, then couldn't do anything else in life, came back to be a teacher there. And then over the Christmas break, the boy's parents wouldn't answer the phone or anything. So they just left him there. Like, we're rich. I remarried a new man. I put your father in a mental health institution. Mm-hmm. And I put you in school, so I'm free. And so he kept trying to blow up his mother and father's phone. They never, long story short, it just showed how wealthy his family was, but how lonely and hollow his entire life was. And this professor that everybody hated and had to stay with him, and the professor and him were transformed by the 2 weeks that they spent together. Mm. The professor never left the campus. The guy said, "Hey, let's go to Boston," And so he said, I'm not going to Boston. I got to watch you here. I'm here. Yeah. But he went to Boston with the kid, and the kid went there to really try to see his father in the mental health institute. But it gave you pause, Tommy, to look at that and say, wow, we got to be careful that we're not so focused on all of these things. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you now, I'm going to come back to your story. I think that as parents, the reason why we are on the page of education and the finest education that we can get is we're trying to escape marginalization. Yeah. Mm. We're trying to help our children escape being marginalized. Mm-hmm. And we know that education is one of those pathways. But the real question is, what is the balance? And okay, the whole crowd of excellent people that are capable went that way. Yeah. So I felt like I needed to go that way. Yeah. But now in retrospect, I'm saying, what did I sacrifice in that, in all of the judgments that were being made by everybody there, because that's the whole reason to be there. It's comparisons, judgment, and life. Lawyers, doctors, talented fifth, top 5%, or whatever. It's 9, 10. It's 5. Yeah. And so the thing is, but you're not thinking about that. At first, you're thinking, I just need to get him this opportunity. I just need to get him on this pathway. You're doing everything you can in favor of what you believe is in his best interest. And then as you take a step back, you say, Mm-hmm. And I think that so here's the parallel for all of us right now, because you, community, you haven't missed out on this. The opportunity is still available for us to look at everything that we define as valuable and actually ask the question, is it? If we keep wanting to work for somebody else, if we keep wanting to be in somebody else's neighborhood, is that really working for you? And I would suggest that too often we have our proverbial noses pressed to the window of someone else's life. And we're peering into that, imagining ourselves there instead of imagining the great life that we can create if we just do the things that are natural, comfortable, and right for us. And that's one of the things that I want to do in 2024, Tommy, is really, we're not waiting on anybody to save us. There is not going to get reparations. We ain't getting that. That's not coming. And you don't know what kind of president you're going to get. But get your nose off the window pane and get your nose into life and all the valuable opportunities that you can create. Right now, what we're about to do is going to be fantastic. Yep. That's one of the most exciting things I've heard now as we prepare for 2024, is that Tommy Lewis and I get a chance to put our heads together and think about what more can we accomplish if we're not constantly looking out there for somebody else to save us or to be the thing.
Yeah, Eric, this is great. And I think that this conversation in and of itself is what a New Year's resolution is. I don't think it's a matter of, hey, here's a quick thought and let me write it down.
3 things.
Right. Put a box in there so that I can check it. I think it's a real dialogue with self and self-mindedness. Right. And so between you and I and then Judy and Penny and our, our immediate family, our nuclear family, there's some like-mindedness such that through the spirit, folks are hearing the same thing.
Right.
We're hearing be creative.
Right.
Right. There's more for you in the way you want it and need it.
Right.
Right. Not here's more for you based on how you're looking at someone else's life.
Right. Right.
Because that's them.
That's them.
I get the Forbes magazine and I get all that good stuff. And we have folks who are making $1 billion a year plus.
Mm-hmm.
We have a baseball player just signed a contract for 10 years, $700 million a year. My first response is, man, I would love to have that type of money.
Right.
I shared that conversation with my wife, and she says, is there anyone in your field that's making $700 million? Right? I said, no. And she said, you chose what you're doing.
Right.
What is the wealth in your field?
Right.
My wealth is my happiness.
Right.
My value add. And just like you said, Eric, I love what I do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
don't like it all the time.
Don't like it all the time.
Love
it. And there's always this challenge of figuring it out. And so having that dialogue, talking about what is to come, that is the resolution.
Right. And so the excitement for me is I meet people all the time. And I really know, Tommy, that I believe a lot of the future for us will be ruled by content creators. And I think that we have got to just look at, here's what I would say. I'm going to say this to you, I'm saying it to myself as well, that really what we need right now is not more information. We need somebody to come around and curate. Just come in here. I mean, I got 37 years worth of content all over. Stuff that I'm just blowing past. If I find anybody to organize more of that, we've organized a lot of it, but that's our wealth. I mean, literally my one book, just my book, I've never even really maximized what can be done with that.
Yeah.
And so we are in the midst of loving what we do so much that we don't really focus on monetizing it. Mm-hmm. And I believe that it's not that money is the value. It is an underutilization of the gifts and talents that God has poured into us. It's not being a good steward over all that he's given. Because I believe that as we maximize the wealth side, the currency of the world that we live in, it gives us then more ability to accomplish greater things, and the value systems that we have that we'd like to see more of, you get to then create those and manifest those if you have the wealth to do that. And you get to enjoy a few nicer things in life, but we enjoy a lot of the nicer things in life. So there ain't much else that we gonna get. I mean, we can play around with it, but we're not looking for more of those kinds of things. We want freedoms, but I just think that there is more to do in this crazy world when you have billionaires like Elon Musk, who's just really, he's just losing their minds almost.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's talking about DEI should die, and F all of the advertisers that left him. I mean, he just snapping. I mean, that's horrible character. Yeah. Horrible. And so we don't want to be that. And I'll tell you, I'm going to say this one last thing, Tommy. And if you're not careful, if you get money before your brain has fully matured, it can make a fool out of you. A complete and total fool. You can literally kill yourself. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, when I saw and I ain't gonna go down this street, but what Diddy and Will Smith and them have all been involved in, some of the craziness, man, it's just the boredom of wealth.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got a lot of money. What are you gonna do? Well, let's think up something crazy.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. When you, from a material perspective, when you have everything,
you're bored now.
Yes. In abundance, just like
our stuff. Take the cars. I mean, I didn't want them.
Yeah. And so now we move into mind control, or you kind of that mental pimping.
That's
Right,
where we at.
and that would
There it
lead, that
is.
would lead into
There it
physical
is.
pimping.
There it
And that
is.
was kind
There
of
it is.
sexual pimping.
Right, right, right.
All of that.
Right.
It's that absolute power is absolute
Yeah.
in oneself.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the good news about the story of all mankind, that we as believers, we do know that at the end of the day, we are not in control. And God he has the wrath, right? If you start to behave in ways that
Starts unraveling.
And even if you don't have to go to church, all that, when you in yourself, Eric, say,
I don't care about people no more.
He will say, all right, wait for it. He'll knock you down or he'll take you away.
Right.
And taking you away is not always taking you away from earth.
Right.
It can just, from a character perspective, moral perspective, integrity perspective, he will make one into a leper. He's always done it. The good books, plural, the good books have always shown.
Reap, sow.
Reap, sow. You'll get you. So we got out, some folks got out there wilding, my power, what I've achieved, what I, that ego, boom. It's so interesting you share that, Eric, because if you have an opportunity, if you have Peacock Network, or you may be able to go to YouTube, Kevin Hart has a series called Heart to Heart. So Kevin Hart's last name is Hart, and it's to the heart, Heart.
And the Plastic Cup Boys.
In the series, he has a number of different interviews, kind of heart-to-heart interviews, one of which is with Will Smith. It's a great interview.
Okay.
Right? To the point that you're making.
Right.
Another is with Mike Tyson. Another one's with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, et cetera, et cetera. And there's males, females, et cetera.
Right.
And the conversation that he had with Will Smith, which I believe was in August or September of 2023, was, I think, very eye-opening, that Will and Kevin Hart, in all their fame and fortune, had found themselves void of happiness.
Right.
They were not unhappy.
Right.
They were void of happiness because the people and the environment around them were unhappy.
Right.
Yes. So they said that although they were happy,
right,
in the things that they were able to achieve, things they were able to purchase, even in their own mind, they were happy, and I believe it.
Right.
The people around them were like carnage.
Right.
They were all unhappy in the families.
Right.
And through those stories shared, I learned, what do I prefer? Do I prefer to egotistically and selfishly be happy?
Right.
Or do I prefer that people around me, everyone that touches me, experiences some type of self-joy?
Right.
I, Eric, take the latter. I want people to say, I'm happy because I know you.
Right.
Versus, hey, I grew my business from the ground up.
Right.
And I'm
nothing,
Eric.
Nothing at all. And so we're here to beat the loudest drum that we can, to say, put all your money, all your chips down on happiness and value-centered living. If you put all your chips down on that, and people, that doesn't guarantee happiness, but it gets you closer to that, because those are the things that matter most. And we're not just saying that because we broke. We're not. But we are not broke. And we've had very successful lives, made millions of dollars. It's what we've made, millions of dollars. But I can tell you that none of that would replace the joy. And that's what I told my family on Christmas, is that just look around this table.
Yeah.
We are the richest. This is it. Tommy, it doesn't get any better than this right here. It don't get any better than that. And so I'm just grateful that in all of my foolishness, that God didn't allow us to miss that truth, is that the greatest gifts in life for free. If Terry Cooley is up right now watching us from California, I want to tell you, brother, I love you to death.
Yes.
I love LG Wise. I love Tommy Lewis. And I've got some other friends, people that I just greatly love. Bishop Logan, I love you. Reverend Pifus, I love you. Pops Dunn. Yeah. I'm going to try to see you before the holiday is over this weekend. I'm going to come by and see you and bring a bag of shoes and things. But the richest parts of my life have to do with people. And any of the struggles that we have, Tommy, and even the puzzle of trying to figure out how to get it all cracked open, that's just a puzzle.
Yes.
That ain't nothing. It's not a problem. It's a puzzle. And we're just trying to figure out together how to unlock the puzzle. So we get a chance to sit around, look at the egg, and it's almost like a Rubik's Cube. Right. We're saying, hey, man, what pieces do you have? Eat. Do this. Do this. Turn it 3 times that way. I'll tell you, get them all lined up. That's all we doing. And that's the joy of life. We are mostly winning because we have people around us that bring energy through love, and we get the honor of delivering that back to others.
Eric, I'm excited about this new year, 2024, right? So let's jump into it. We have a little bit more time.
Right.
This is a great conversation. Thank you, community, for joining us this morning.
Absolutely.
I'd like to start us off, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
And part of what we've been talking about is the action behind this phrase or this number one approach, and that is to be realistic. Mm-hmm. Right? That's some introspection, some reflection, in such that our resolution is not out of our reach.
Right.
Right. Now we can dream big.
Right.
But we also have to be realistic. Eric, as you mentioned before, that for you and I, independently, we cannot achieve the success by way of touching people, helping organizations improve. We cannot do that independently in our silos.
Right.
So realistically, it makes sense to start to even more share resources.
That's right.
Right. Share, not only our independent resources, but our network.
Yeah,
resources.
Absolutely.
It makes sense.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because if they have me speak, they're not trying to have me speak, 10 times a year. I say, hey, Tommy Lewis is good too, because those things really, really help us. And I'm going to tell you this, that in many ways, you have to make a deep enough investment in people to be able to know them and to be able to trust them and them trust you. That just doesn't happen automatically, Tommy, because we're almost on guard from others, man. We got our defenses up. So we can't even access each other until we get to know each other. I know this brother right now so well, and I know his heart so well that I trust him with everything that I know and have, because I know, I think about Tommy. Hey, I learned something. Hey, let me share it with Tommy. Because he's going to be able to use this with his clients too. And so we're grateful for that. But we've gotten that revelation, and it's possible. It's easy to miss it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's easy to miss the greater value of humans over material because of the world that we're in and how much time things get a chance to sell themselves.
Yeah. So stay there just for a minute, Eric. You said it's easy to miss it. Unpack that a little bit.
Right. I'll tell you that we are all caught up in it. So don't ever believe that your value system is so strong that you're not caught up in it. We laughed the last time about gifts, and I was talking about how dysfunctional I was about gifts. Hey, but we got cured from gifts. But all of us, Tommy, you talk about your son's school. All of those things are things that we're doing with our so-called friends.
Yeah.
Where do your kids go to school? Oh, how are they doing? Oh, you think about colleges? Where are they? This level? And everybody that asks questions, they're trying to slot you, and you are playing that game too.
Oh my God.
You're playing that game too. You don't, whether you want to or not.
Yep.
you're in the game. And so, you know, as I see my children turn into adults, now what are your kids doing? And so now you've got to ride on whatever they're doing. And those things bring greater revelation to you as well. So sometimes the lessons that you'll learn are the ones that are delivered directly from life, because you won't really know them all by yourself. Life will put you in a situation where you then start learning. And that's why we got to live this thing. And we got to be careful to never be judgmental of others that are trapped in this game of materialism, all these other measures that we have for success, because it puts an additional layer of pressure on all of us that becomes counterproductive.
That's excellent word for me. For whatever reason, and I know it's God, Eric, what you just shared has resonated with me on so many different tones. As I look at 2024, I'm looking at three different things specifically. I'm looking at some of the relationships that I have with family and friends, and some of the kind of unconscious or implicit judgments that I have of them, because the way they're living their lives are very different than the way I live my life, and we are family or friends. And so I thought that we should be equally yoked or have the same approach to life. In reality, we don't. And I have been like, oh, okay, kind of not negatively judging them, but like, hey, that's not me. And so that's one. The other is, when I think of my own resolution, and being realistic, I need to think more of who am I, Eric? Really, who am I? Because I can see myself. If I were to tell you who I am, part of my description or explanation will be based on what I believe my image is to the world. I would share some achievements. I may share some, even some catchphrases. To have someone say, I agree, that's Tommy.
That spells him out in a nutshell.
That's it. But in reality, man, I'm still searching. I'm in the who I am as I'm trying to still find out who I am. Because my first description is based on who I was, the life and journey to now. But where I am now is really, who am I in the next 10 to 20 to 30 years? That is my resolution. Man, that's I'll leave it at those two. I know I said three. But that's enough.
Well, let me build on that.
Okay.
And so what I would say, the question that Tommy put before us is, who am I? And I would say, he says, and I could recite a lot of things that are in the public space. What they call that when you have this sort of public space that you can get things from. So it's a public domain. Yeah, it's in the public domain. So we got a lot of that about ourselves. But then we have the who we know we are on the inside. And what I would say to you is the challenge for 2024 is this, is to first of all, be able to authentically become more aware of who we are, both to love that person and to try to develop and grow that person, but also to create environments where people in your environments can bring more of their authentic self to the environment without being canceled by you. In other words, the question is, do people maintain a relationship with you because of their avatar that they are showing to you? If they were really to come forward as the true person that they are, would they still be accepted in your circle? And the question for you is, if people around me knew all of who I am, would they still be willing to accept and love me? And I think that part of what makes our families work is that we are willing to do more of that. But I'm going to tell you, I don't think that we've even scratched the surface. I don't think that we've even scratched the surface of authentic transparency within our own families. And if we aren't able to feel comfortable doing it there, where else in the world would you ever do it? And if you can never do it, then what kind of stress does that add to your life?
That's the question. Man, so many questions. I think that as we go into the new year, Eric, I would invite our community as you and I to continue to ask yourself questions and to know that some of these questions may not be answered in short term. It may be a life question that begins the journey from now.
Right.
So I don't know if you're 20 years old, 30, 40, okay, 50, 60, 70, 80, as you, wherever you are, to say these questions have come up. I think that's what life is. That is a resolution. It's not just a New Year's resolution checkpoint,
right?
Check mark. It's really a discovery of self in the environment that we're in, be it home, personal, financial, romantic, etc. Wherever you are, whatever circle you're in, to have some clarity. I do believe that clarity will be provided when asking the right question. It doesn't have to be to the right person, etc., but asking the right question with authenticity. Not, I need to ask the question so I can affirm what I'm already thinking.
Right.
Do you think I'm a good person? Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're a good person.
Right.
That's affirming. Man, I gotta, yeah.
Well, I would say to you, Tommy, that in our relationship, you've seen whenever because sometimes you'll jump out there with a level of transparency. Mm-hmm. And when you do, that then sparks that in me as well. And if I do, that sparks it back in you. And we recognize that we are in a trusted community where we can share some things that are chinks in the armor, that make us human, and that our friendship is not going to take a hit as a result of that. And I'm going to tell you that there's a word that people have heard, two words that they've heard. They probably even used them, but I'm going to ask you to consider this as you look at 2024, unconditional love. We know that God has unconditional love for us, but too often in our relationships, our love is based on some conditions. And I'm going to encourage you to move more towards unconditional love. But to apply that, I think that it starts sometimes with a level of transparency and the risk of transparency. And as we risk being more transparent, I think we open up the aperture for the person that we're talking to be transparent back to us. Yeah. And I think as parents, I'm going to say this to you all as parents out there. Too often, I think we're trying to fully protect our whole image. And I think that if we are constantly brokering and managing our image before our children who see the real stuff, whether you say it or not, then we do not teach them or model before them the value and power of transparency, because with transparency and unconditional love becomes the unlocking of challenges and problems that exist in your life. In other words, there are some challenges and problems that you will never unlock if you never take the risk, that cold moment where everything's quiet and you're wondering, is this the moment that I'm going to say something true? And then the commercial's over and the moment passed, and I may never come back to that for another 5 years. I'm going to say that don't blow up all your relationships, because most people they're not open and ready for transparency. So don't even try that. Don't just say we can go just gallivanting into it. No, people exist hiding ever since Adam and Eve. They were naked in the garden. They ate the fruit. Now they're throwing clothes on. That's what we've been doing.
Wow.
We've been throwing clothes on in our relationships. And I think that there's another level of love that we can experience when we can experience another level of transparency.
I think love is going to rule the day. Going into 2024, as you mentioned, Eric, just love will rule the day. How can we be overpowering with love? And love is articulated different ways.
Yeah.
And I will offer this. Go beyond just loving people as you would like to be loved.
That's right.
Or as you love in the moment. But how can you stretch your own and our own capacity to love others in the way that they need to be loved? Because sometimes in relationships, and we're all as humans in some type of relational connection, when another person has a love need,
Right.
Preach. Sometimes we don't have what they need, right? But if we really start to be committed and dedicated to really expanding love, it will be given to us. That capacity, capability, skill, adaptation, it will be given to us because that's what love is, particularly those who believe, right? Hey, I don't know how to love you in the way that you need love, right? That's what we say. But what are we doing? Do we ask for that ability and that skill, right?
Right.
Few thoughts.
Well, I'll tell you that what we're hitting up on today are deep revelations that sometimes we go wide and sometimes it's important to go deep.
Yeah.
And today we had a whole list of things that we were going to try to cover. We're going to gallivant wide. And what we have found is some real deep revelation and value to going deeper. And that's what I'm going to say to the community, that as you look at 2024, I do believe that it's all about love, because hate is getting the greater attention. Yeah. So if hate and love were our children, I'll tell you, the one who's being spoiled right now is hate. Yeah. And we've got to find a way to spoil love giving to others, trust giving to others, forgiveness and grace that's given to others. I think as we begin to do that more, I think that we get something back. Tommy, what I thought we would do, let me just read these things off to you all so that you at least have them for establishing resolutions that can transform your life. Be realistic, plan ahead, outline your plan, make a pros and cons list, and talk about them. That's the first 5. Tommy, any of those that you want to highlight or?
I like to make the pros and cons list, right? And so I love that, because what happens if you don't achieve it? Right? Are you a failure, whatever that means to you? Right. But you have your resolution. What are the pros of achieving that resolution? What are the cons? Right. I think that's a realistic approach to self-assess and to kind of validate if that's really a resolution for you. Right. Because if you say, "Oh, I didn't get it, I'm going to go to plan B." Right. You expected failure. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But if you say, we may say, "I didn't get it, I didn't achieve it," you may have to double back to say, what was your time frame for it? Right. Was it in 2 months or was it for the year? We may realize that we didn't have a time frame. Right. So then going into the next time, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. Right. And now I'm going to stuff some of my mind Tommy's own medicine back down our throat. Yes. So I talk to companies a lot of times, and I like saying it, well, what you value is determined by what you plan. And I mean, let's just look at your staff meetings. I mean, do you have people on the agenda? So I'm saying all of that to them. Yeah. But now, if Tommy Lewis and I want to ask ourselves in terms of business growth and all like that, okay, guys, big talkers, yeah. Is it on your agenda
at all. If it's never on the agenda,
What happened?
well, it's not a value.
It's not a value.
We dream about it.
Yep.
We talk about
We'll
it.
talk about it.
We're doing activity in it. We're doing the activity. You know, like we tell them, that activity is not progress.
Yeah. Come
That's
on.
not cultural change. Activity, events.
Right.
That's what we're doing right now.
Mm.
We're doing activity and events towards business growth. It's not a value yet. It becomes a value when you begin to attach legacy and freedom to it. When you begin to attach something bigger than yourselves, because neither of us will ever focus on it if it feels too much like it's just about us. It doesn't move us. Tommy, it's only as we begin to see ourselves as underperforming for our community. That's what I would say we want to do a better job of, is we want to get higher performance for our community and all of these economic measures that we seem to be failing in. Because as we do that, we'll be able to send more kids to college. We'll be able to hire more people. We'll be able to create better cultures in our own workplaces and in others. And so, Tommy, I tell you, man, that's just blown me away that we got some revelation out of what we were trying to. The last 5 are: reward yourself, track your progress, don't beat yourself up, stick to it. In other words, when you put a goal or a resolution together, stick to it, and then keep trying. And I can tell you, we've been good at that part.
Keep trying. As we draw to a close, our last show of 2023, I'm going to just reiterate the last point that you made, Eric. Keep trying. Keep trying. And for those entrepreneurs or those folks, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to pursue freedom, right? You do not have to. Keep trying.
Right.
That mental and physical bondage is something that psychologically we're like, we don't want. We don't want to be bound to almost anything.
Right.
Right. And so if we want to really achieve that self-prophecy of that freedom, the ability to move freely in our minds, maybe in our space, keep trying.
Keep trying.
Keep trying. And so I would leave us with that.
Well, community, we've appreciated you all. The reason why we're still here is that you're still with us. And Tommy and I are talking about some upgrades that we are planning on doing, but we never want to upgrade ourselves past you all. In 2024, we do want to find ways to get phone calls into the show so that we can not just hear you here, but that you can call in and make your points so others can benefit from those. Tommy, I know that we have not, because we're in this, we don't value it as much, but I know that there are people that have shared with us the value that the show has. My good friend Terry said, he telling me, and Tommy, you guys are global. You're global. And there's something called imposter syndrome that we talk about, where people don't feel like they are the truth of something. But I know that there are some of you out there that benefit from the freedom that Tommy Lewis and I have because we are free entrepreneurs. But we thank God for you. We'll be praying for you and your family, and enjoy the year. Be safe, and we'll see you again in January 2024.
Take care.
Bye now.